2023 marks Disney's 100th anniversary. Sadly, 2023 also represents the single worst year in the company's history. Yeah, Disney struggled during World War II, but at that time they were still an independent animation studio that had just gambled everything on Snow White, their glory days still decades in the future. By now, however, those glory days are in the past, as Disney today is an international media conglomerate which this year alone has nosedived worse than the company ever has in its 100-year history. For a brief recounting of how bad things have turned out this year alone, check out our previous video where we go through how CEO Bob Iger and his hand-picked board need to watch their backs from their own shareholders who are running out of patience with their bumbling mismanagement. In short, 2023 may mark Disney's 100th anniversary, but it is not the year where there's much to celebrate. Yet celebrate it, they tried, and even that blew up in their face. Rather than being a coincidence, that may be symptomatic of Disney's deeper issues and identity crisis. In this video, we're going to cover the disastrous 100th anniversary celebration in London, where a massive fan event turned out so bad that even the press got involved. To that end, we'll begin with a brief exploration of the event and venue in question, the guest reports from it, and most importantly, how it is symptomatic of what Disney as a whole has become. This comes to us from the Daily Mail, a publication some take issue with for being a bit on the populist side, and for frequently failing to be on message with the likes of CNN and CNBC. But when it comes to their entertainment coverage, they do a good job and often have some solid early scoops, which later turns out to be true. This was the case with both recent Star Wars movies, as well as the most recent James Bond and Indiana Jones, to name but a few. In this case though, they're covering Disney 100 The Exhibition, a touring event that already has been in Philadelphia and München, Germany, before now opening in London, England, and eventually returning to the US. The London response was decidedly mixed though. In the late hours of Sunday, October 22nd, the Daily Mail covered how the guests experienced the opening weekend in a piece titled "Disney's London 100th Anniversary Expo branded a total shambles by unhappy guests who say they waited in the cold for hours outside XL before being crammed in like sardines." Let's dive in. The article reads, Disney's 100th Anniversary Expo in London has been branded a total shambles by unhappy guests who say they waited in the cold for hours outside the XL Centre before being crammed like sardines. Here, I'd like to chime in that I actually have attended a fair few Comic-Cons, Collectormanias, Memorabilias and Destination Star Treks, both in London, Birmingham and Manchester. And out of all the venues I have ever attended for any convention, the London XL is my absolute least favorite one. I can't quite put into words what is wrong with it, other than that in my experience, if there's even the slightest hiccup in the planning or the execution of the event, the layout or the crowd control, that venue, more than any other, is going to result in a miserable time for attendees. Maybe floor space is so expensive the organizers never get enough of it, I don't know. Either way, with that established, on with the story. The event, which was billed as a magnificent celebration of the company's 100th year, has been slammed for overcrowding as guests with prams or in wheelchairs struggled to see exhibits. Visitors said they waited over an hour in the cold to access the money-grabbing Disney 100 exhibition at XL London, with no toilet facilities for them by the time they got inside. Heat from the packed galleries left a number of visitors feeling faint, and with no washroom facilities, parents had no choice but to change their babies' nappies in the crowded room. The exhibits themselves, meanwhile, were branded sparse and small, with several interactive displays not working only days after doors first opened. The 20,000 square foot Disney 100, the exhibition, promised fans of all generations with the opportunity to immerse themselves and rediscover some of their favorite Disney stories in 10 magnificent and imaginatively themed galleries. Rebecca, a mother of 2 from Hertfordshire, paid over £70 to visit with her husband and young children. She said, "It was a total shambles. We waited over an hour in the cold with an impatient 2-year-old and a 9-month-old who has just recovered from a chest infection." Rebecca, whatever else the organizers may have done, that one's squarely on you. You should have expected that there would be queuing outside, because that's just common sense. That would be my default reaction at any rate, but in this case, it would appear the organizers may have made some promises the venue couldn't deliver. Rebecca continues, "The website FAQ specifically said there will be no queuing outside, but the line was enormous. And no wonder. Once you're inside, all the guests are photographed in front of a green screen, with the pictures costing extra before you queue again for an introductory film." Moving on to another guest, Helen, a photographer from Kent, paid £60 to visit with her autistic friend John. She said they waited for 90 minutes outside and a further 25 minutes inside before reaching the exhibition. So, what happened once they did get inside after nearly 2 hours of waiting in the cold and wet London October? The 58-year-old said, "The heat hit us and it was so packed we couldn't see anything. We were crammed in like sardines. We could barely move, and John started to panic and wanted to get out. It felt so claustrophobic. People around us were heard complaining about the heat and feeling unwell. It was impossible to see and enjoy the exhibition. I wanted to see it from the artwork point of view and costumes. The exhibition felt sparse and small." She added, "There was no magic at all. It was disappointing and badly managed." Let's read that last bit again, because it so perfectly encapsulates Disney today. There was no magic at all. It was disappointing and badly managed. It felt like it wasn't a celebration of the Disney name and the work, but a money grab. And this is why I brought this article up in the first place. This is symptomatic of what Disney has become in recent years. As we have established, Disney right now are in a crisis of their own making, and the modern-day Bob Iger company is nothing like the company that Walt Disney created 100 years ago. I think that has put the company into something of an identity crisis. I mean, just look at the banner for the event. Walt Disney laid the foundations for a company that would last 100 years, but ever since Iger went on a wild spending spree and rebuilt the company in his image using acquired properties that had nothing to do with Disney, the foundations that Walt built are increasingly being chipped away. Case in point, let us again revisit the talking points that the modern-day Disney handlers supplied to the cast of the remake of the one movie above all others that Walt built the company upon.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is...
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. And so it's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in.
So, we are dealing with a company whose current iteration deems its own past and foundations as problematic. And yet, it is that current iteration of the company that has created the Disney 100 exhibit, celebrating a legacy they are ashamed of. No wonder guests refer to it as a void of magic, poorly managed cash grab, because under Iger, for its 100th anniversary, that is what Disney has become. Here's to hoping Nelson Peltz can come in and shake things up. And that can't happen soon enough. You see, Disney just hired a new DEI chief, just in time for the South Park special Into the Panderverse, which promises to be a mockery of everything Disney, more than anyone else, have done in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you can rest assured we will cover that in an imminent video. While you wait for that, and on a completely different note, some of you might be interested to know that on October 24th, Graham Hancock will be returning to Joe Rogan. And to warm up for that, why don't you check out our interview with Hancock as a primer?
Yeah, that's really
I
cool.
watched it. It seriously is one of the best interviews that Graham's ever done. It's so well put together. Andre does a fantastic job.
Andre's awesome.
Andre's awesome.
Yeah.
Of continuing the conversation and bringing good points up, and I was spellbound by this interview. I mean, obviously I really love Graham Hancock.
Thanks for the high praise, guys. Much appreciated. The reason I push this interview is because this platform won't, because just as we first posted it, YouTube did some shenanigans to their notification and recommend features, which makes us and all your other favorite YouTubers all the more difficult to find. So, to increase the chances that you actually get notified of our upcoming Disney DEI and ESG video, please smash the like on this video, hit subscribe if you haven't done so already, and indicate you want notifications on all videos. But that may not be enough, because here's what's new. If you should get a notification, then please click on the video as soon as possible, because how fast you do that directly determines how many others receive notifications after you. Apologies for this info dump, but that's what we're dealing with, folks. Now, with those messages delivered, please let me know your thoughts on Disney's 100th celebration in the comments.